we had a little bit of a crash in FX markets, and that has led to some weakness this morning in stock markets, and it's pretty much broad-based risk off. And so we're seeing some pullbacks in crypto, which is good because for the start of the year in some of these markets we were looking for entries in. ADA is one, Ethereum was one. We were looking for a pullback that we can buy against. So I think that we might finally be setting up our pullback in Ethereum. So it's pretty broad-based across the board. Pretty much everything that I looked at that yesterday that was a setup, if we broke out, has not managed to break out. This was Bitcoin Cash SV that we were looking for a move above the 20 moving average. We're reversing. Bitcoin Cash SV, the same thing. We were looking for some follow through to the upside in Litecoin after breaking above the daily 50 moving average, and we're pulling back to test support in pretty much everything this morning. Ethereum and ADA and a few of them were markets that were trending nicely and holding above daily moving averages. So those are the ones that we should be looking towards on pullbacks to buy or for long entries. So ADA's top of my list, and so is Ethereum for a pullback long entry. Where do I think that we come back to if we're going to find some support? Sort of 50% of the last swing is very common in a trending market, and back to the 20 moving average. So if we look at this 4-hour setup here in Ethereum, I think back to maybe around 142 would be a really good long entry if we can find some support there and turn higher. If we look at where we're going to go with Bitcoin and the birthday boy, and let's see where we are. Very often when a market gets stuck in between the daily 20 and 50 moving average, you see sideways consolidation. And without a break to new highs in Bitcoin, if we take a look at our 4-hour chart here, you can see that we're just stuck. We've now, we're in a sideways range. We've got completely flat moving averages on the 4-hour. We've got flat moving averages on the daily. We really don't have any trend in this one until we break out from this sideways range. So if we take it back to the daily, I think that we could probably draw it as a wedge like this. And if our wedge breaks down, then we're sellers. If we find support, it will be a third touch of this bottom trend line, then that's where our buy entry is going to come. If we look at it in Bitcoin dollar at Bitfinex, that's around 3,824. If we look at it against Tether, say at Binance, we'll see where our support comes in. Then it's going to be around 3,690 on this daily chart at Binance. Remember, the last swing higher, we drew the fibs from the low that we made on the 31st of December, and we'll put it on the high that we made on the 2nd of January. And when that 236 retrace level breaks, which was at 38.22, that's what tells you that a correction is underway, and that's what we're seeing here in Bitcoin on the hourly. So back towards the moving averages in the middle, maybe 37.50, but otherwise I think more likely back to 36.91 in Bitcoin Tether. If we zoom out a little bit, we can see that from the high on the 24th of December before Christmas to that end of December low, we got rejected 3 or 4 times at the 50% retrace. That usually means a 50% retrace going the other way. So if we do that from the lows here for Bitcoin, then we're going back to this 50% level down here. So that's where our 37.19 support comes in. So pullback days across the board, unfortunately. So I think it's a good day to get your shopping list ready. Now, some of them, remember, there's a really potentially setting up, Monero has some news, and Monero potentially is setting up a higher low, only valid as a reversal if we then make a higher high, which of course we've failed to do now. So sideways consolidation, flat moving averages in Monero. I'm looking for this one to only do a shallow pullback. If we're going to trend higher in Monero, we should only come back when you see a big daily green candle like this. You should really only come back 50% of that green candle, and then you should find some support, and that's where we'd be looking initially for a buy entry. 0.012854 in Monero. Let's draw that. So it's going to be around here, 50% back. Mark where that daily moving average is. So what potentially we'd like to see is a kind of ABC correction. So here's our first swing, our A leg, a B leg, C leg, something like that, and then that's what we'd be looking for a buy. If we don't want to miss the entry or miss along, we connect these highs. This is how I do it anyway, and I just take that away. We'll put an alert on these highs. So if it does rally from here and starts to look at a new high, then at least I've got an alert on the trend line and I won't miss it. So Monero. Now, this Monero would be interesting if we break these highs, because we've moved then in Monero above the daily 50 moving average, and if we hold above it, we should look for a rally back to the daily 200 moving average, and potentially at least 50% of this drop, which would take us back to 0.01544. So really a quite nice long trade if we can get our pullback long entry in Monero. If we don't find support at this daily 20 moving average, then it is a bigger wedge consolidation, and we need to wait for the lows of it to be retested. And unfortunately, what that means in a downtrend is these triangle or wedge patterns very often break to the downside. So if this would then be a fifth wave lower for Monero, so if this is a wave 1 and then this is a wave 2, 3, 4, we would be looking for another wave lower. So that 20 moving average then becomes quite kind of important to see it hold in Monero. So pullbacks everywhere,